Welcome to another episode of Moments Off the Mat. I am joined by three leaders in women's wrestling, you could say, on National Girls and Women's in Sports Day. So happy to have you all here. We've got Andy Barth, the Executive Director of Titan Mercury Wrestling Club. We have U.S. National Women's Freestyle Head Coach Terry Steiner, as well as Director of Operations for Titan Mercury Club, Jonny Ruggiano. So I just want to thank you guys all for joining me.
You're welcome.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it. Topic of today is Captain's Cup, which is coming up next week, February 13th and 14th, live on FloWrestling. Terry, I kind of want to go to you first. Can you just talk to us about the origin of Captain's Cup and how this whole thing came about?
Well, it was, I mean, really, I think it came about because of the RTC Cup that was held for the men in December. And I was watching that and I was thinking, wow, this is awesome. This is a great event. And you know, I knew that we were starving for matches, right, with our national team and our national team athletes. And it's like, how can we do something like this? And I'm just sitting thinking, and right about that time, I get a text from Andy, right? And it's like, hey, we should do something like this for the women. And it was like, and then so later that day, Jonny and Andy and I got on a phone call, and that's how it started. So.
Yeah, and Andy, you have been involved with the RTC Cup, now the Captain's Cup, as well as next week's America's Cup, which will feature men's freestyle action. So can you just tell me why it's important for you to kind of help put these events together and to be as a support as you've been in these events?
Yeah, well, I think because it's important for our wrestlers and it's important for the success of our programs, and that's why we've wanted to be involved. You know, all of us at Titan Mercury are not only interested. We're not only interested in supporting the wrestlers who are a part of our club, but we're interested in. We always talk about it very, very openly and directly. We're interested in seeing the United States put their wrestlers, you know, on the top of the podium at the world and Olympic stages, and we don't think that it really. We would not be putting ourselves in the best possible position to do that if we're not somehow getting these competitions in for our wrestlers. You know, the word "it's a challenging year" has been fully used and often used. So I'll just point to it again. And it's been tough to get the necessary competition in. I think we're seeing more and more of it. And I think as we break ground and sort of forge the way on a number of events, and Flow has been very important in that. And there have been some other broadcast channels as well. I think it's set the pace and set the stage to do that, and it's extremely important to have found an event that allows our women wrestlers to get in a critical number of really good matches, to get into that competitive spirit, stay in that competitive spirit. It's just important for wrestling overall.
Yeah, and before this call, you were saying how this event could easily be seen as groundbreaking and historic. Could you expand on the reasons why? And I'd love to also hear from Terry and Jonny on this as well. Well,
absolutely. So this is a women's only event in prime time, you know, on Flow, involving, you know, if not all, you know, a major number of our most capable and competitive, internationally competitive women in the United States competing. You know, they're competing for prize money if they can. You know, there's some college women competing, and that you know, so that's not allowable for them, but there are the majority of the women are eligible for prize money, and so I think it puts it on a you know, a national stage with the best our most competitive, capable women, and in a time that I would call prime time, so Saturday and Sunday. So I would say to anybody who watches this, if you have ever said, hey, I want to support women's wrestling, I believe women's wrestling is critical for the future of wrestling in the United States and internationally, I say, hey, watch this event, support this event, be a part of this event as best you can, because this is really the first of its kind. It's groundbreaking, it's historic, it's momentous, and even better, I think it's going to be fun and exciting. And as we saw, it's interesting, right? As we saw with the RTC Cup, I think, a lot of people maybe were wondering if they were really going to get that sense of team, but very quickly, as you started to watch that RTC Cup, you found yourself rooting for one team or another, developing an attachment or an affiliation. And while this event is a little different, I think in that it was selected through a draft with women captains, our number ones or twos serving as captains. I think you're very quickly going to find you develop, as you watch, you're going to find that you develop attachments and connections, and be really excited and really be wondering who's going to win.
Sherry, Johnny, do you guys have anything to add on the significance of this event?
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I'll kind of talk about, the celebration aspects of this. There is a pretty big celebration component to this for women's wrestling, which is really, really exciting. We were able to, formulate a lot of really interesting and unique ideas in regards to the amount of time that we had to get some really cool things happening. One of the big things is, we've got legends in the sport of wrestling who are going to be sitting in the corner as honorary coaches for this event. Listening to our women talk about the drafts and watching the draft on Flow, and then also seeing some of the interviews that have come out and some of the interviews that are going to be coming out. The fans will go on, stay tuned to some of those really great interviews that we have. The women are really, really excited about the teams that they're picking. There's a lot of camaraderie that's been established on it. And I think that this is a celebration for women's wrestling and an opportunity, like Andy said, this is the primetime spot in a week of wrestling that is featuring women's wrestling, putting women's wrestling on the forefront and allowing fans to see that in the primetime spot is really, really huge for women's wrestling. And I think fans are going to really enjoy not only just the personalities of the wrestlers that maybe, some fans have not been engaged with, but also they're going to see just tremendous wrestling. The competitive side of this is pretty fierce. The women and the teams are getting really excited about the competitions that they have ahead of them. And it's going to be a really fun event. It's going to be a really, really fun event that I think we'll build off of, for the years to come.
And I really like how it's tying everyone together, right? I mean, we've looked for opportunities to tie our pioneers together with our current superstars, right? And this does that with bringing in, coaches who have been great athletes in the past and now are great advocates for the sport and coming back to be a part of this event. And really, it is, like Johnny said, and just a celebration of women's wrestling and the movement that has happened over the years, and really being able to really take a look and bring that all together and give different perspectives on it. I know the athletes now have a completely different perspective than athletes like F. Soon and Trish Sanders have had, right? And so just to bring that together and let them be around each other, I think there's going to be a lot of bonding during this that we don't even realize right now, right? And I think just opportunities to sit and visit and have those people, have the pioneers around the current athletes right now for an extended period of time, and just let them just sit and talk about their experiences and what wrestling has done for them. I think it's going to be a great celebration, and then you're bringing in the people watching, the next generation of the young girls out there that are getting inspired daily, and they're going to be able to watch these girls in action, and there's a different flair to it, right? I mean, women on a team against other teams. I mean, there's going to be a very fun atmosphere to that, and showing that you can be fierce competitors, but you can have great friendships at the same time. And so I think you're going to see that during the course of this event.
Yeah, and Terry, Andy mentioned earlier how this is just such a great opportunity for these women to get matches in a year that has been so difficult. You, as the national head coach, how have you guys been engaging with the women throughout the pandemic, and kind of, I guess, what opportunities have you given them to make sure that they are battle ready when it comes to Captain's Cup, Olympic trials, Olympics, and all of that?
Really, it's been very difficult, right? I mean, we had our first camp in January, coming together as a national team, right? And so outside of that, it's really just been correspondence and communication on the phone and emails and things like that, just making sure they're getting what they need as far as training and training partners and you know, just coaching and things like that. But really the competition has been few and far between. If they haven't been on these cards that have shown up around the wrestling circuit, you know, there's a lot of people that haven't wrestled in 10 to 12 months, right? And so that an event like this is so important. You know, maybe the you know, the number ones and twos, you know, we went to France and an event, we have Italy afterwards, but that's a very small number, right, of people that are able to travel to those places and do that. And we still have a lot of people that are vying for those Olympic berths, right? And so we need to give them some opportunity to do that and give them some matches. So really, you know, this came about when we're really looking at how can we give the most number of people, you know, opportunities to wrestle some quality matches. And that's really how the concept came about. And so, you know, I'm thankful for Titan Mercury. I'm thankful for Andy Barth and his contribution to the women's program and what he's doing. And you know, that's how an event like this happens. It's not just the idea, you know, there's a lot of ideas out there, but can you really make it happen? And you know, a lot of that only comes to play because of Andy's just very, what I want to say, just kindness and generosity, right? And giving the women's program, because he sees a value in the sport of women's wrestling, and not just for Titan Mercury, but for the United States in general. So.
Yeah, and Andy, I'd like to address that. All three of you guys have really been huge advocates and supporters in the growth of women's wrestling. But Andy, you have you've helped in numerous ways. You've supported through Titan Mercury, through Beat the Streets Los Angeles. Why was women's wrestling important to you, the growth of it, and what foresight did you have to get in as early as you did to help advocate?
Yeah, I mean, we started when the club started in 2012. You know, right away we started to pick up and support women athletes. Terry identified some for us right away, and I think fairness. You know, women should have that same opportunity. You know, I'm a big believer in equal opportunities, and I think that's important. I think you know, women's wrestling is, as I mentioned a little earlier, I think it's going to be very important for the success of wrestling at the international and Olympic level and maintaining that. We had a tough lesson in 2013 where we almost lost the sport, and I think the commitment to growing the level of women's wrestling was important in an important component of the success of that effort. And so we have to remain true to our word, right? If that was one of the reasons that we were successful in saving our sport, then we have to make sure that we continue to support it. So, and I'd love to see women's wrestling. You know, it's made some major breakthroughs. You know, at the college level, we're not quite over the finish line yet. There are some great people involved in that effort. You know, and I'm going to tout some names. You know, Kira Barry and Sally Roberts, who have just been, you know, tremendous advocates, you know, and the team leaders for women's wrestling over time, going back to Art Martori and Kim Martori, you know, they've set good examples for us. So There's a lot of us. There's a lot of us working together, and I think we all have the same vision that women's wrestling is important. It sends an important message about equal opportunity. It sends an important message that this is that women's wrestling is a critical part of critical part of wrestling.
Yeah, and going back to the Captain's Cup, like I think Terry mentioned, maybe it was Johnny, we had a draft for these teams to kind of get together. So there's a lot of excitement surrounding it. People are watching these teams being put together. They're kind of getting a chance to figure out, like Andy suggested, what teams they're going to be rooting for, which ones they're going to be watching. Johnny and Terry, I know you guys have had a lot of interaction with the women recently. What has the excitement level been like among, whether it be the captains or just the other members of the teams around this event? Johnny, we'll start with you.
You know, I mean, the excitement level has been incredible, and the amount of calls. I mean, I should first and foremost say it's a blast to work with people, right? To work with like-minded people and people who are passionate and excited and energetic about the sport. We're really fortunate. I mean, I like to think, you know, I'm blessed to, you know, kind of get the opportunity to work so much with Andy and just the rest of our staff and our team. We're really passionate about it. But when you tie in with USA Wrestling and you're putting together events like that, it just, you know, it expands upon that. There's just so much excitement towards this event. The women have had a lot of fun in this process, and it's been fun to hear. It's been fun to hear their thoughts, you know, to address concerns, to see the creativity too. There has been a lot of independent creativity from our women, which, you know, knowing our women wasn't surprising. You know, we have some really wonderful women on Team USA, and we. You know, I think the main idea was to try to set up a platform, right? Set up a platform for an event. We talked about it initially. The first idea was getting critical matches. You know, just getting critical matches for wrestlers in general during this very important time leading up to the Olympic trials, so we can make sure that we, you know, have the best wrestlers represent the United States. But when you look at the Captain's Cup, something that's really unique to it is a component that we are, you know, celebrating women's wrestling. And watching and listening to the women and hearing all the creative things that the women have, and working with Terry and Clarissa and Jessica and just, you know, all Team USA, for all of us, I think it's just been a lot of fun. It's been a blast. It's been a lot of late hours, a lot of, you know, quick phone calls, but a lot of fun the whole entire process.
Yeah, Terry, what's the feedback that you have received so far?
Yeah, I think people are excited. I mean, I think the team atmosphere for the women's program, you know, for female athletes in general, I think the team aspect means so much more, even more than I think for men. And I think that having that team aspect involved is a huge thing. And then just, you know, with the draft, it's not about just being on a team with their friends, right? They're picking people that can help them win, right? And because they want to put money in their pocket, and so you saw quickly, and you know, when we start talking about a draft, I mean, the athletes were, the captains were asking for eligible list immediately, right? I mean, they wanted to know those lists, and I remember like Sarah Hildebrand, she asked me if she could have the list, and I said, well, we're just finalizing it. So when we did it, she's like, well, can you send it to me? So I sent it to her, but I said, you know, in fairness to everyone, I sent it to everyone. And she was like, you did? Like, why did you do that? You know, she wanted to get get ahead, but you know, so they're competitive, right? They're competitive, and they're picking the people that, you know, can help them. So it wasn't a popularity contest, which that's what I like about it the most. It's based on merit, right? I mean, who can help their teams win and stand on top of that podium, and that's how they were picking the spots, and that's how it should be. And so that's what I like about it, and you know, so I think that, you know, the overall response has been really positive and really good, and we're excited about the event coming. So.
Very cool. Well, I just want to thank you all for joining us. And before we wrap up, I want to let everybody know there's tons of wrestling next week. We've got America's Cup, which is our men's freestyle dual event on February 10th and 11th. That's Wednesday and Thursday. And then Captain's Cup, our women's freestyle event on Saturday, Sunday, February 13th and 14th. We'll have pool action on Saturday and then placement matches on Sunday. And you guys can watch all of that live on Flow. But again, I just want to thank you guys so much for joining us. It was great chatting with you. And thanks for making this event happen.
You're welcome. Makes a great Valentine's date on the 14th.
Absolutely.
Sit down with your sweetheart, you know, your significant other, and watch some wrestling.
Definitely. All right, guys. Well, thanks again so much. And we will talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Taylor.
All right. Thank you, Taylor. Bye-bye.